Shalom. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. This particular presentation is not going to be a long one, nor is this presentation intended to, quote, get at, in that negative aspect, anybody. This particular teaching, brothers and sisters, and presentation is due to the fact that it has been noted in disrespect that if you disagree with some man, that some people feel you have the right to call that man a boy, which we want to point out, brothers and sisters, is emphatically and realistically quite disrespectful. You understand? There is a way to disagree with somebody without having to, quote, utter a slander against that person. So, what I'm presenting, brothers and sisters, in this particular case, is that it is not mannerable, it is not upright, it is not understandable. You understand, to call a grown man a boy. All right. So with that, we want to get into this particular subject. All right. For among my people are found wicked men. They pry as fowlers lie in wait. They set a trap, they catch men. Jeremiah chapter 5, dated to the 6th century BCE. All right. So the men that Jeremiah was talking about were not upright, were not decent, were not set aside for decency and righteousness purposes. You understand? So, with that being the case, brothers and sisters, let's go on to the next part. Thank you. This is from the Economist magazine. All right. That was the question facing a federal appeals court in Atlanta, Georgia, which struck down a 1.3 million award to a black employee of Tyson Foods. The employee, John Hyson, pardon me, applied for a promotion. The boss, Tom Hatley, instead brought two white outsiders, saying that the money losing plant needed new blood. Mr. Hythen sued, saying that Mr. Hatley's use of boy to him proved racial animus and was awarded 1.75 million. An appeals court overturned the ruling. The federal Supreme Court then sent the case back to trial, saying the case was then retried, and two witnesses, including Mr. Hythen, once again testified that Mr. Hatley had called each of them boy. Mr. Hythen again won at the lowest court, but at the appeals level, a three-judge panel reversed the verdict. The case could still be appealed further. All right. So the point in going over that is because we wanted to point out that the terminology of calling a grown man a boy could be said for layman terms, a racial epithet is something that is made to go against a man of color, a said black man by said white man. In other words, like in a movie Malcolm X that was played by Denzel Washington, when he said that that's what he calls your son, hey boy. And there were grown men that were being called boy. You understand? It was already noted in the South where a white male that will be under the age of 15 would tell a black man over the age of 60, move out the way, boy, and so forth and so on. So, with that being the case, we want to point out that as we showed earlier, right, for among my people are found wicked men. The men that were being spoken of were wicked. But because of the fact that they were not living righteously, they still were not called anything less of a man. Another adjective, if anything, was added to being a man, and that's the word wicked. You understand? It wasn't, okay, we're going to not call you a man, we're going to call you a boy instead. No, that's not what it was. You understand? So this is something we want to go into for edification purposes. All right, next slide. This is from the Essence magazine. Roland S. Martin, CNN contributor, special correspondent Essence Magazine / Essence.com. When I read a book about Kentucky Republican Congressman Geoff Davis using the word boy in reference to Senator Barack Obama, I immediately thought of a routine in subsequent book by comedian Cedric the Entertainer. While watching a movie, quote, The Kings of Comedy, said had me rolling in an aisle talking about being a quote grown ass man. And that eventually became the title of his best selling book, quote, Grown Ass Man. For those who think that African Americans are too sensitive over this issue, and it's just a well meaning person making a mistake. I understand that. But others must understand the history of, quote, African Americans and what it has meant to black men for someone to call them a boy. Now, this is what we want to point out because not all males are perfect. You understand? But to sit there and, as we want to point out, to call a man a boy, brothers and sisters, is blatant disrespect. You do not call a man a boy. No more than you say to a boy that he's the man of the house. See, there's roles for everything, even in the understanding of Yisrael. We're going to get to the Hebraic understanding, but in a second. But I just want to get into this aspect, brothers and sisters, from the political, social, quote, African American stance of this particular subject before we get into the Hebraic understanding of the difference between man and boy. One, it's the ultimate sign of disrespect and is often more offensive than calling them the quote N word. For years, black men are summarily, sorry, dismissed and treated with disregard. It was as if their stature was diminished when someone white calls them a boy. I've heard black men describe the hurt and pain of growing up and growing and having someone white call them boy in front of their own child. Now, talking about that right there, this is what we want to talk about. There were instances, as we pointed out in the South, where a a white male under the age of 15 can say to a black man that already has children, pardon me, boy, and all of that stuff, and so forth and so on. You understand? That right there, we want to point out is disrespect. Now, as we read earlier, the book of Jeremiah, Jeremiah started prophesying as a boy. He was a Na'ar, and we're going to get into that Hebrew as we go along. You understand? And he became a grown man as that time went on. And when he stated, For among my people are found wicked men, he wasn't talking about boys. You understand what I mean? So, what some people have stated is if a man is not living up to par, if a grown man is not living and doing what he's supposed to be doing, then it must be okay to call him a boy. And what we're saying is no, it is not that. You understand? So, we want to emphasize you do not call a man a boy no more than you tell a boy that he's the man of the house. You understand? So, let's go on, brothers and sisters. Again, I know some are reading this and saying, why can't we all just get along and forget all this race stuff? That would be great, but our history is truly our history. And there are things left over that, when said, immediately conjure up those feelings of old. Now, in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, it says that the Most High requires the old. You understand? So when you go for a loan, you understand they look to see what your credit history. History is the past tense of something. You understand? So even in the society, they're not going to sit there and just take you at your word and you just got a beautiful president. They sit there and have their checks and balances when they are suggested to them to give you a loan. They got their criteria that they meet. So why do we as a people always decide to be shortchanged once it comes down to others having to match up to where we can set the standard? Because we are afraid to sit there and be that alpha male, if you will. That's what we're getting into in this particular regard. All right. Do you remember the images from the sanitation strike that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was leading in Memphis in 1968? The most striking visual was that of the male protesters wearing a sign saying, I am a man. There are reasons they were wearing those signs. Next slide. You may have caught the Showtime special 100, pardon me, 10,000 Black Men Named George, which tells the story of labor leader A. Philip Randolph, who organized the Black Porters of the Pullman Rim Company during the 1920s, known as the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. The name is derived from the fact that white passengers never bothered to learn the names of the porters and would dismissively call them all George, which was seen during those days as a racial slur. Remember earlier this year when former President Bill Clinton referred to Obama as, quote, kid? That evoked a similar reaction by some because it was seen as being dismissive of a sitting U.S. Senator who also is a grown man with a wife and two daughters. Where I come from, we call that a man and not a boy or a kid. I have my own story when it comes to being called a boy. I recall working at the Austin, Texas American Statesman newspaper, and an older white male colleague was talking to me, and in a conversation, he referenced me as a boy. I knew he meant no harm, but don't think for a second that it didn't cross my mind about the word. He also stiffened up, realized what he said, and quickly replied, now, I know I didn't mean to disparage you by calling you a boy. In this presidential campaign, we have had many instances where individuals have made references that were perceived as sexist or racist. Some have been called overt, others covert. I have I've heard men blow off comments by Senator Hillary Clinton that are clearly sexist, and we do well to recognize that. I have a wife, sisters, and nieces, and I sure don't want them treated with disrespect. So, not object to sexism towards Clinton means attitude will remain and may affect the women in my life one day. Heck, Obama's comments about rural folks in Pennsylvania and the visceral reaction by some shows that even when it comes to guns and religion, some folks see that as an attack on who they are and where they come from. When people suggest that we all shouldn't be, quote, so sensitive, I get what they are saying. But I also know that's always easy to say when you aren't the one who is being targeted. Now, brothers and sisters, we got into this kind of subject before, and you wouldn't call a grown woman a girl. Not being, quote, sexist or anything of that sort. Once it comes down to women, she wants to be, quote, if she loves you, she wants to be, quote, more than just your friend. You can't introduce your fiance, say, and this is my friend right here, even though a friend is a very strong title too when you get right down into it, and Hebraic thought. You understand what I mean? But she wants to always be known as your wife, your fiance, and so forth and so on. To call her anything less, she will sit there and wonder why that's being the case. So why do we accept the short change stuff that happens with us as a people? It's because we have the illusion of inclusion, where we sit back and think that everything is all right just because somebody is mentioning us or talking about us. You understand? Let's move on. This brouhaha over the comments by the Kentucky congressman won't blow up into a major story and will all likely forget. But let's treat all this as a history lesson on race and gender and as a window into a world that many of us don't know about, ignore, or long forget. Now, they hope and pray that we don't sit there and be, as it's called, that strong one. You understand? When Hoover of the FBI was talking, he developed this thing what they call COINTELPRO, and they were supposedly looking for the quote the rise of the Black Messiah. You understand? This man has always known who his enemy was. When you read the Willie Lynch letter, it distinctly says, "Make sure blacks trust us, and only us." See, he does not sleep. When you read in Isaiah pardon me, when you read in Psalms chapter 83, it said they hold crafty converse against your people. Crafty. They don't sit there and sleep upon you. They always up there watching what in the world is going on and so forth and so on. You understand? Now, this is addressing the house of Israel. This is coming from the Bible in the book of First Kings chapter 2. And it says this, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. Now, this is David speaking to Solomon, and it says this: "Ano kiholek, but dede kal haaretz, wakazakta, wahayita laish." Now, the words that you see there in the Hebrew on the bottom side, remember Hebrews read from right to left, right? The Hebrew that you see there says wahayita laish, which means they translate it there as show yourself a man, but that's a beautiful translation, but a more literal translation is saying emphatically, and you will become a man. Solomon was a teenager when he took the throne of Israel. You understand? It says, be thou strong, therefore, and become a man. Ish is the general understood word for man. You understand? And so when you're dealing with that particular subject, and when you're dealing with that particular matter, you don't raise children, you raise adults. You understand? You don't sit there and, as it says, he who conquers his child will have evil of them later on. You understand? So if you're sitting back there wondering why the child is doing this or that, you may want to sit there and check the child and then check yourself to see why was the child even okay with such an act, whatever that act may be. You understand? So, brothers and sisters, I want to emphasize again, regardless of the deeds of a particular man, you do not call that man a boy. As we open this presentation talking about the book of Jeremiah, where it distinctly says, "For among my people are found wicked men." A wicked man is not to be equated to a boy, no more than a boy is to be equated to a man that's wicked. Because if a man is being wicked, to sit there and call him a boy, that's not even letting that man check himself from his wickedness. He's just going to say, well, that's the term you call me, and I can just, well, I'm still under the category and the umbrella of a male. But if you want to sit there and throw some adjectives to it, such as wicked, evil, shisty, con artist, sinister, so forth and so on, then maybe one can sit back and say, well, why do you say that about me? And then change. But if you're in your feelings and just want to sit there and just hurt somebody else's feelings, you don't want to rebuke your neighbor, you just may say, well, you a boy. You acting like a boy. You understand? So you haven't grown up. You're acting immature. That is not causing somebody to sit back and think. That's going to cause somebody's feelings to be hurt, and then one will become in his or her feelings. And I say or her because if it's a woman that's wicked, do we call her a girl? If it's a girl that's living upright and righteous, is she equated to a woman? Are there wicked women, like it says in Jeremiah about the wickedness of the wives of the kings of Israel and Judah in Jeremiah 43 and 44? So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we want to point out for edification purposes. All right. It says there, if you're looking at it in the Hebrew, right? Pardon me about that. Wakazakta. All right. Wakazak. The word kazak means strength. All right. So David was telling Solomon that he is to be strong. You understand? That's what we want to point out, that Solomon was to be strong. And by being strong, you will then become a man. All right. Now you'll make sure that your strength is in righteousness and not in wickedness. Next slide. Joel 3 is Zechariah chapter 8. All right. And they have cast lot for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine and have drunk. The Hebrew says this: Wa el ami yadu go rar. Wa yitnu hayaled ba zona. Wa hayalaida makru ba yayid wa yishtu. Now the red part that you see there highlighted on in the Hebrew and in the English is where the word boy is at. All right. Zechariah on the bottom says this: And the broad places of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the broad places thereof. All right. The Hebrew says this: Urokobota ir ye malu yeladim wiladot misakaquim birokoboteha. Now, what we want to point out in that particular regard, you have the word yeladim translated as boys. You would not in Hebrew thought, brothers and sisters, call an ish a yeled, because there's a difference between the two. The word yeled means child, and it's identified in the aspect of masculine. It's a masculine child, aka a boy. You understand? So, what does it say there? They have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot. Just like you read right there, and the broad places of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing. Now, my question is this: if women are, or some other men, to want to sit there and say that a man who's not living up to par is like a boy, can we trust that person biblically as the one that's playing in the street? Brothers, sisters, what am I pointing out? In Zechariah chapter 8, it talks about the restoration of the house of Israel. And we see there where it says that boys will be playing. There's nothing wrong with being a boy in Hebraic thought. There's nothing wrong with being a Yeled or part of the Yeledim, all right, the male children in Hebraic thought. But when you want to call a grown man who may not be living upright and righteous a boy, what are you saying then of the biblical understanding of boys? That's how you know, brothers and sisters, it's a terminology used, as we pointed out earlier, by the Caucasians against our men, against our brothers that are grown. You understand what I'm saying? In order to sit there and try to dehumanize him as a man. And that was his thing, to break, quote, break him down, so to speak. And some of our people, not to be sexist, mainly sisters, have taken a baton of the white man to sit there and call a black man a boy. Instead of, like the black prophet Jeremiah, just straight up saying, Ish Resha, wicked man, as opposed to, you understand, saying, change your ways, thou wicked man, like it says in Ezekiel, oh, thou wicked man, thou shalt surely be died, or thou shalt surely be put to death. Change your ways and live. They're not saying that like it says in Ezekiel. They just going to call this grown man who happens to not be living upright as a boy and think that's supposed to fly and everything's supposed to be okay. Many people, and anyone who does that, you are the spokesperson for the Caucasian man against the black man. There are many wicked black men. Many wicked black men. As a grown man, everything I've done was not righteous. I'm not going to sit here and toot my horn. You understand? But what I will sit there, brothers and sisters, and present in this particular aspect is that you cannot have any biblical understanding, knowing that it speaks about a wicked man, and then turn right around and call a man that's living wicked a boy. Because a boy is not equated to a wicked man. The terminologies are off. Next slide. The afterthought. There's no reason to call this man a boy. I think he's a con artist, but he's a man that is a con artist. Now, why did I make this in part is because I saw this video where this lady was talking about the situation with the Umar Johnson thing, whether his school was real or not. And her thing was saying Umar Johnson is a lonely boy who is stuck. He can't escape he can't escape, has nowhere to run and hide from all his lies. Now, has he been caught in a lie? Yeah. Has he been caught out there saying my money? Yes. Did he sit there, sleep with a sister, and then called her a maggot when she, quote, blew a spot up? Yes. See, let's show the difference between two grown men once it comes down to being cornered with a woman and getting his spot blown up. Let's go back in the Bible, if you will. Tamar went in disguise. Judah, in the Bible, in Genesis, the 38th chapter, had carnal relations with Tamar. He didn't know who he was sleeping with. He just knew he's, quote, getting his, having sex, knocking boots, whatever terminology somebody want to call it, because you can't say they were being in love with each other because she covered her face. Tamar covered her face, and Judah did not know whose, sorry to have to go raw, he didn't know whose vagina he was in. Judah in Genesis 38 did not know whose vagina that belonged to. Judah was just, quote, I'm being a man, son, I'm going to do me. I'll put my breeches back on, get my staff. No, see, I need the staff and the ring because that's the payment for you going into me. And then Judah gave this woman his signet ring and his staff, not realizing that he done ejaculated in her and then she got pregnant. So now, as time goes along later, and Tamar is said to be with child, what does Judah say in Genesis 38? Let her be burnt. Whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down. You forgot when you was just doing you, man. When you was just, quote, being a man, doing what, quote, men do. You understand? So what happened in that particular case, Tamar said, I'm pregnant by the person who gave me this. Hold that. It's yours. You are the father. Zerak and Perez, Bene Yehuda, Imotam, Tamar. Zerak and Perez are the children of Judah. Their mother is Tamar. Judah didn't even realize he had got that woman pregnant. He laid with her and then turned right around. And after she was found to be pregnant, he forgetting or that he laid with her because he didn't know who he was laying with, said Tamar should be burnt. But when his spot was blown by that woman, you understand? The only thing Judah can sit there and say is, "Thou art more righteous than I." That's the difference. See, when Judah in Genesis 38, when his spot was blown, he had to sit there and confess, like, my bad. And it was katati, my sin. You are more righteous than I. That's what he said. See, the difference with that, brothers and sisters, in this situation is he is not said to have been apologetic to the people whose money he got. I know people who donated to the school that he's talking about building, you know. Brothers and sisters, there ain't no school. But this thing right here is not meant about the whole Uma Johnson thing. This thing is meant about whether or not it is correct to even call a man that is a con artist a boy. Because a boy is not a man that's a con artist. A man that's a con artist is a man that's a con artist. He doesn't get the title of boy, no more than a righteous boy gets the title of being a man. We got to know to call a spade a spade. You don't call a spade a club because you upset because you didn't make your books right in spades. Just throw that out there. You don't call a spades a diamonds, or you don't call a diamond a club because of whatever reason. You got to call it what it is and not be quoting your feelings. But don't take the spirit and the feeling of the oppressor, whether or not the black man in his day and time was righteous or wicked. You were still called a boy by the white man. So how you going to look calling your own brothers and sisters that, or brothers that in this particular case, if they're not living up to par? Why not just sit there and say, dude, you're a thief, homie. You're a con artist. You're a swindler. You're a person who tries to take wicked advantages against mothers with children. There's all kinds of things, not being nitpicky, that one can sit there and say. Calling a man who is a con artist a boy is doing a disservice to boys who happen to be righteous. Next slide. Now, to that person's title, this is my response. Not good. You are out of place saying any man is a boy. A male who is grown is a man, even if the man is not living right. He is a man that is not living right. A boy is not a man who does not live right. A boy is a boy, whether he lives right or not. A man is a man, whether he is not living right. I can't subscribe to such nonsense. I do not support any lie, whether by a boy, pardon me, whether by a man or a boy. But it is a lie to say that a man who is not acting right is a boy, since a boy is not a man. Also, and this goes back to the other video, Successful Ladies Live. Now, when you go into that particular YouTube channel, Successful Ladies Live is the woman that sits there and promotes what they call swirling, when he sits there and teach black girls, black women, also to sit there and date the white man. Also, Successful Ladies Lives hates to be associated with the black man or male. She operated in swirling, yet on your channel, the sister whose comment I was talking about, you rightfully speak on how black people need to be, quote, beware as a buyer or as a one buying. So I will not buy into what's, quote, Successful Ladies Live says, nor what you say, sister, about a man being a boy. That is not, pardon me, that is what, I stand corrected, that is what the white people that Successful Ladies Lives wants to date says of our brothers who are grown. Boy, in your videos, you get more love than disagreements. So please don't be like, quote, Successful Ladies Live, who told me she does not like to be called sister, since you have a good mind to try to warn black people about scam artists. And that was the response that I made to the person who made this particular thing here that said Uma Johnson is a lonely boy. You ain't got to call him a boy just because you disagree with his method of how getting things done. Just because he is out there talking about this is my money, and even if he is disrespectful, which he is, sitting up there talking about trifling as black people and all of that, his day will come. Trust that. there is, quote, no new rules to the game. So the wickedness that one is about, it will come upon one's head. All right, we're gonna go on to the next slide. Now, when I try to sit there for whatever reason, yeah, see, it says that it's unavailable. I'm gonna have to fix that on my end. But this is a video, brothers and sisters, that I'm gonna put inside of the description. And what it is Steve Harvey being asked by a white lady about history buffs. And his response was to sit there and tell him, I don't give a damn about slavery. See, this is what is taught to people. This is why we have to make sure that entertainers are not our teachers. Now, the actual video of such, as stated, I'm going to put in the description because some way with my internet and the PowerPoint, it seems to not play the live video in this particular aspect for whatever reason. Okay, let's go on to the next part. Thank you. Proverbs 20 and Proverbs 6. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Gam, bama'a lalayu. Jit nakir na'ar. Im ak with im yashar pa'alo. Even a child. Now the word child there, all right, brothers and sisters, is the word na'ar. You wouldn't call a grown man a na'ar. A child is known by his doings. Now let's look at Proverbs 6. It says this: a base person, a man of iniquity, is he that walk with a forward mouth. So now, if we can sit there and show, as done earlier in Jeremiah, where men were called wicked, and as we see here in Proverbs 6, when it speaks about a man of iniquity, that person is still called a man. Calling a man of iniquity or calling a wicked man a boy does not help the situation. All you've done is sit there and collaborated and teamed up with those who've been calling your grandfather and your great grandfather boy. There's other terms to use. And the understanding of if it don't apply, let it fly, it does apply because nobody knows everybody. So therefore, if you can sit there and call one grown man that, then that is how the subconscious would think about how males are in general. So it does apply because no grown man is perfect. So if I say, speaking in general, what to do something that's not upright, or if even if I do something childish, does that mean that one has the ultimate right to call me a boy? You understand? Stop parading for the white man, my sisters and my brothers. Stop doing that. This is what we want to talk about for edification purposes. A base person, Adam, Bali Ya'al, a man of iniquity, Ish Awen, is he that walketh with the forward mouth. Holek, Ik Shoot Pe. Next slide. Oh, that ended that part. Well, brothers and sisters, I just wanted to sit there and go over this short presentation in regards to the whole aspect of boy and man. All right. Um, Giving a shout out to my sister Dammy, who actually helped put the PowerPoint together and so forth and so on. I give respect to the creator of heaven and earth for having such a person in my life and willing to help in that particular regard. All right. So, brothers and sisters, subscribe, like, comment, and share once it's uploaded. Again, that particular video with Steve Harvey will be put inside the description. And once I get the understanding of how to properly put the video to play during the actual live stream and PowerPoints, we'll go on from that particular point. All right. So with that, all right, shalom.